The more you're able to hear people talk about their inner thoughts and desires, the more information you have to make guesses and analyses. As with before, getting indirect stories is going to be more effective than directly asking for someone's life story. The overall goal here is to draw meaning from people's subconscious thought. When you ask yourself a pointed question, such as, "What makes me happy?" you likely aren't going to be able to answer that question. Even if you do answer the question, it probably won't be an answer that helps you achieve greater happiness. So, what stories do others tell themselves, and what can we learn from them? There are two primary methods of interest: Kate Wendelton's 7 Stories exercise and a personality test from psychologist Carl Jung. Both seek to evaluate personality based on answers that people give to seemingly unrelated questions. Indeed, in a moment, you'll understand why they can be seen like either a horoscope or an illuminating look into someone's psyche, depending on who you're talking to. The 7 Stories exercise. Kate Wendelton, career counselor, created this exercise out of Bernard Haldane's work in helping military personnel transition into civilian work. After World War II in the 1940s, the job market began to get flooded with veterans returning home and looking for work. It was very evident that many businesses and organizations didn't possess the resources or skills to capitalize on these veterans' talents and capacities. Veterans were accustomed to jobs that pertained to war. These jobs weren't necessarily available or well known in the general labor force. They simply had no idea how to evaluate them. Sounds similar to the MBTI, doesn't it? Haldane wanted to do something to help the veterans. First, he asked veterans to recollect on their best achievements, while at the same time clarifying what they enjoyed doing the most. Next, he helped them clarify their individual strengths and skills that were transferable. Specifically, the focus was to identify ones that could be useful to an employer. Third, Haldane helped them market and present their offerings in a way that appealed to a potential employer. He would help the employer recognize the benefits of hiring the veterans based on their skills, achievements, and enjoyments. Traditional methods for finding jobs always used an outside-in approach. In other words, old methods would try to fit people into a job, rather than fitting people's skills to jobs. Although it was deemed to be extremely radical at the time, Haldane's inside-out approach was able to help many veterans who needed assistance in seeking employment. The 7 Stories ask people to complete the following steps. Step 1. Write down 25 accomplishments. People were asked to identify 25 accomplishments that they felt especially good about. This would involve having people reflect on life accomplishments that ranged from childhood all the way to adulthood. The answers should be specific and not just a general statement. Normally, people may have a hard time with this, but they should really just go with their gut. They should write down whatever makes them feel good. 25 is a lot of anything to think about, but the point is that you dig deep and leave no stone unturned. It could be a rather insignificant accomplishment, but the underlying feeling of triumph could be massive and educational. For instance, someone might write that they were elected class president during their sophomore year in high school, or that they coordinated a charity fundraiser selling car wash tickets to benefit the homeless while in their junior year of college. In the grand scheme of life, these are irrelevant, but they speak to particular traits and values. Step 2. Narrow down to 7 accomplishments. From the list of 25, people should now narrow their list down to the 7 most important and significant ones that have made them happy. At this point, it will probably become clear that people will choose personal significance over actual magnitude of achievement. That's what this process is all about. They may select achievements such as overcoming cancer when they were 32 years old by actively going to treatment and changing their entire lifestyles. They might also recall putting together their first furniture all on their own when first moving into their house. Again, it can even be something as small as speaking in public and not breaking down. There is no definition or criteria for which 7 you should use. Chances are you'll be able to figure out which are the most significant to you. Step 3. Write stories associated with those 7 accomplishments. Taking from the 7 narrowed accomplishments, people are to write out the stories that were associated with each of them. From here, they should be able to identify the skills and lessons learned and manifested from those experiences. Identify what exactly made them so personally significant. Write the story in the first or third person and make sure to include the context and the aftermath of how you felt afterward. When people are able to go through their experiences, they may be able to identify the elements of those experiences and how those elements made them happy. They can see commonalities in those experiences, as well as certain aspects that attributed to their happiness. Write out the emotions felt in as much detail as possible and attempt to reflect in the story why there were such feelings of triumph and happiness. Those who overcame cancer might talk about how they became much more optimistic in their outlooks on life, as well as more resilient when faced with adversity. They remember those agonizing moments of chemotherapy, but the great ways that the nursing staff helped them throughout the process. They saw the compassion that medical staff had for patients and, in turn, became more positive and uplifted. For the people who put together furniture for the first time, they might recall feeling independent and able to follow directions once they really focused their attention to it. They remembered what it felt like to read through instructions that seemed like another language at first. They would also remember that great feeling of tightening that last screw and placing the furniture in the perfect spot in the house. It might sound trivial, but remember, it's about the feelings and emotions it gave you, not about the achievement itself. Step 4. Analyze those stories. In a deeper purpose, people would now reflect and analyze what they learned from their experiences. Moreover, people can look back on all of their older experiences and attempt to connect them to ones pertaining to the 7 stories. Besides the cancer survivors learning about their feelings after the experience, they're now able to analyze their overall feeling of the process. They might discover that all of the experiences, even when negative, happened for a reason, and they were meant to prosper through it all. They reminisce about all the things they used to love to do, like playing soccer or drawing, prior to being diagnosed with their condition. As a result, it motivates them to overcome this ailment and work toward participating in those hobbies again. The homeowners may learn overall that they truly enjoy the beauty and struggles of home ownership. They start with a piece of furniture and then can feel confident about moving on to bigger home projects like tile and floor replacements. They start to walk around the house and notice that the bathroom could get a little bit of a facelift. This motivation to do more, because they love the sense of accomplishment, helps them power through their initial fear of not being a do-it-yourselfer. The idea behind the 7 stories is to be able to triangulate what people truly value and want in their own words. Carl Jung Personality Test. Another popular test used to evaluate personality comes from Carl Jung. Carl Jung was abnormally analytical in his thinking. He drew a lot of influence from Buddhist ways of thinking, which then translated to the way he viewed and studied people and their personalities. He believed that there was a deeper connection to the way that people thought about simple things. Although simple things are easier to identify, it's the answers that people provided that would reveal more about the person they were and how they preferred to do things. From how they view other people to how they envision their deaths, the questions from his personality test were very unique and intriguing. It's always been attributed to Carl Jung, but it seems to have gained a lot of popularity from the book Diary by Chuck Palahniuk. Take this test a bit more tongue-in-cheek than the rest of the book. The test asks individuals to answer the following. First, name a color. Any color. Now, think of 3 descriptive adjectives that describe that color. Second, name an animal. Any animal. Now think of 3 descriptive adjectives that describe that animal. Third, name a body of water. Name 3 descriptive adjectives describing it. Fourth, imagine you're in a room. All the walls are white, and there are no windows or doors. Describe, in 3 descriptive adjectives, how that room feels to you. Stop here, complete the questions, then read on to see what they could mean about you. The basis behind each question is where the evaluation and analysis really happen. Question 1. Color choice. The 3 words represent how you see yourself. Question 2. Animal choice. The 3 words represent how you see other people. Question 3. Body of water choice. The 3 words represent your preferred sex life. The last question, white room description. The 3 words represent your death. Let's take a look at what each question and answer might be revealing. To reiterate, the answers you gave are not the important part. The adjectives you used are. For instance, someone answers the following: teal, happy, cool, calming. Deer, timid, quiet, scared. Waterfall, raging, powerful, strong. White room, calm, tranquil, confusing. According to the test, this person sees themselves as happy, cool, and calming. Meanwhile, they see others as timid, quiet, and scared around them. They view sex as raging, powerful, and strong, and when they think of death, they think of calm, tranquility, and confusion. Each of these answers has an interesting way of describing people based on the answers they provide. Although people believe they're just answering normal and easy questions, they're providing a deeper indication into who they are as a person. It's probably less scientific than anything else in this book, but it does provide food for thought and, at worst, is a great game to play with a date. It's more similar to a free association word game or a Rorschach test a psychologist might administer. Whatever's on your mind exists for a reason, and constructing these answers and stories merely gives you an excuse to identify them. These stories, taken with the questions from earlier in this chapter, are merely methods of bringing out people's true intentions. This has been Think Like a Psychologist: How to Analyze Emotions, Read Body Language and Behavior, Understand Motivations, and Decipher Intentions. Written by Patrick King, narrated by Russell Newton. Copyright 2019 by Patrick King. Production copyright by Patrick King.